A possible D'Anton Lynn return to UCLA isn't exactly the prodigal son, but is he the leader UCLA needs to return them to glory? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Locked On UCLA Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. This is the crossover we've been waiting for in all of Los Angeles. UCLA and Marc Kulkin's Locked On USC. It's been years. And, you know, when we have the crossover, we had to make it special. How about a We Steal Your Defensive Coordinator edition of Locked On UCLA with Locked On USC, Marc Kulkin. Thanks for joining the show. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So what we're talking about today with Marc, as we've done with all the coaching shows, one, what's the backstory? What's the tie-in to UCLA? Two, what are the strengths and weaknesses of Coach Lynn specifically? And three, is this even a fit? Is this likely to happen? Could it happen? There's been a lot of ties to Coach Lynn to UCLA. So Marc, let's go after it. This is a guy that's coached at both UCLA, USC, immediately improved both programs' defenses in very short times. What's your interactions? What's it been like covering Coach Lynn from a Los Angeles to Los Angeles perspective?
So the first thing I recognize about Coach Lynn, one, he's a great X's and O guy. You know, he knows how to dial up a defense. We saw him do it at UCLA. We watched the miracle he's created at USC. He doesn't give a lot. He's not somebody you want to play poker against, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Very straight to the point, gives you very short, concise answers. I don't know if he's ready to leave USC and become a head coach at a place like UCLA right now. Is he capable of doing it? Sure. Would he be if I was running UCLA, would he be my next hire? No. And we can talk about that right now if you want, or we can, dive into it a little bit later.
I mean, the big thing, Marc, you allude to it. If he's going short, concise answers, we have the Chip. We just did that with Chip. We have Deshaun, who wasn't, he fumbled the Big Ten Media Days. And not like Chip was the most loquacious fella either, right? UCLA needs a program builder. They need a personality. And the question that UCLA has to decide, and we can discuss this, Marc, does that have to be a established personality, or can that be a good coach that everybody's just about to hear about? That's exactly what happened with D'Anton Lynn, right? A couple years ago, everybody's like, who's D'Anton Lynn to take over this UCLA defense? Obviously a little different. Coach McGovern was sick and eventually passed away. Sad story. And that led to an opportunity for Coach Lynn coming from the NFL to UCLA. And he really turned around a defense with a lot of talent in the NFL right now and made them play elite defense in 23. And then eventually he left to USC for just a huge chunk of change in terms of salary and just changing things. And he didn't even have to move. He really didn't even have to move. So is he really that personality that's what UCLA needs right now?
So, and you're raising a great point. Personality wise, I think ultimately his home is going to be in the NFL somewhere. I don't think that's going to be his next job, but he has an NFL type of personality. Look, and I was telling you this off camera before we started. I see UCLA today, right now, in a very similar situation than what USC was in before they brought in Lincoln Riley. Kind of in no man's land. You have, look, your location is the number one thing with a business, and that's what college football is right now. UCLA needs a big-time name head coach who's done it before, somebody who's going to get attention, create some enthusiasm, who's willing to recruit, which I think is a big thing. But the other thing that UCLA needs to make the decision, and it took USC a little bit longer to get there, are they going to go all in with NIL? Are they going to play the game the way it's being played today? So until UCLA makes that type of investment, I don't know where they're going to go. I was telling somebody else the other day, USC and UCLA used to recruit the same players. And I get it, NIL and all that's involved right now. But USC and UCLA, they're not recruiting the same players anymore. In fact, UCLA is not even getting USC scraps. And I'm not saying that to be derogatory. I'm just saying when you look at past history, USC used to load up on players, UCLA used to load up, but they always took the guys at USC was like, we want you, but we just don't have the space right now. That's what's changed. UCLA needs to find that, that face of the program type of head coach, somebody who is going to, where players are going to want to come to, either through the high school recruiting angle or through the transfer portal. Is Mike Gundy a guy? I don't know. He became available today. But
he's got the personality. I just don't know if it's an LA personality.
And I don't know if UCLA would be willing to make this type of investment. Coach Ed Orgeron.
Sissy Blue.
He would fit in. I mean, and you know what? Recruiting against him would be really difficult. Again, that's half the problem. You finding a head coach, I don't think is the biggest issue. Is UCLA ready to make the financial investment into a head coach, into NIL, everything you need? And we're talking, resources. I know you guys are building something on campus right now. You need to take that next step, especially when you're playing in the big conference where it's football first, everything else second.
And here's the thing: you talk about location. The things that make UCLA attractive is that what makes a college football athlete attracted to right now. Because you go see places in the South beyond just Los Angeles. You go to the SEC, you go to the Big Ten. Those places are packed to the brims. Yep. And while the Coliseum is going to have a little more, obviously more than UCLA, the Rose Bowl, those aren't the most exciting venues. They're iconic venues in all of college football, but they're not being drawn to either of those. You have to earn that respect. That didn't just come with the cachet of this is USC and UCLA. Tell me if I'm wrong, but those brands don't go as far as they used to, even in the polls for USC right now. Even in the AP Top 25, it's not the same.
No, it's not, absolutely. And here's the thing, even with USC, even when you had to wait for that Pete Carroll type of winning to get the Coliseum filling up on a weekly basis. LA is just a really fickle town. You have to win, and you have to do it in an impressive fashion. Otherwise, you get the Coliseum, which, they reduced down to 77.5. It used to be 92,000. The Rose Bowl, again, another iconic place, but it's too big if your team is not performing. And we've seen those aerial shots of your home games lately. It's sad. It's pathetic. And you guys shouldn't be treating USC's second home like that. So get better and start putting fans in the stands.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not been that far removed where UCLA-USC games, that would be packed up in the Rose Bowl. UCLA would have those games. Like, it wouldn't be embarrassing. It would be like, it's not full, or it'd be 80%, but it wasn't as embarrassing. And it seems like even in LA, it's different, where you go to the SEC, you go up north in the other part of the Big Ten, where it's like, sometimes when Bowling Green comes to town, you're going to get a sellout. I'm sorry, but that's not happening at UCLA or USC. 0% chance. We're going to go watch the NFL the next day. I mean, I don't have an NFL team that's in LA, or we're going to go watch the Dodgers or the Lakers, or you're going to go watch all those teams, or a concert, or all three of those in one day. Like, even the Dodgers break 4 million, but even the Dodger Stadium's not filled up in the corners. No. Like, they break 4 million, but they're not filling up, but they have more fans than everybody else, right? It's a venue. And that's where I think sometimes UCLA and SC struggle, because the hottest ticket in town, it's in Chavez Ravine, or it's LeBron and Luka and the Lakers and all those other things, where sometimes UCLA and USC are really at the bottom of the barrel.
Look, I'll say this, Zach, and I know you're going to agree with me. When USC football is doing USC football things the way they're supposed to, they run LA. When UCLA basketball is doing things the way they're supposed to be doing it, they run LA on that side of the sport. So it's a matter right now, and I said it, a few minutes ago. UCLA, you said it, they're in no man's land. They got to get it figured out. They can't just be tagging along, say, eventually it'll work itself out. It doesn't happen like that. Not in LA. LA is a big city. You just said it. There's a lot of different options out there, sports, entertainment, whatever. You can do literally 2 or 3 things in one day, and you don't have to drive very far to do it. Whereas in Tuscaloosa or Athens, Georgia, Ann Arbor, that's the show. That's it.
And this is an era where you can't just keep punting on the coach. Like, you can't just fail. if you fail, you're going to get left behind. And I know everybody's going to point to Curt Cignetti, and that's where UCLA is in an opportune position. You get your Curt Cignetti type like guy. I was talking to rival Steve Wiltfong. He said UCLA needs that confident Curt Cignetti type. And immediately UCLA can turn into a contender. This is what I think of, Mark. Of all the potential basketball schools, I think UCLA has the most potential in football, arguably. I think of the basketball blue bloods, UCLA has the most potential and most tradition football-wise to compete and be respected. Like, there's a UCLA football tradition. Obviously, it's different compared to USC, but there is a tradition. And there is something with UCLA football. It's iconic. It's in a different way, but it should be competitive, and it just hasn't been. And this is an NIL era. You can get left behind real quick and forgotten about.
I'm old enough to still remember that 8-game losing streak that USC had to UCLA. I remember when the rivalry actually captured the city's attention. I'm old enough to remember Donahue, Vermeil, when UCLA was not just competitive, they were good in football. I remember when Bob Toledo had you guys one game away. You know, outside influences got involved. That game against Miami got shifted to the end of the season, and the wheels fell off. But that's what I remember about UCLA football. They don't have to be at the same level as USC with the 11 national championships, Heisman's coming out of their rear end, yada, yada, yada. But there's no reason why they shouldn't be more competitive. You've got the same backyard to recruit that USC does. And again, location, the academic prestige that UCLA offers, it's more than just sports type of stuff. There's no reason you can't go get a well-established named head coach and re-energize that program. USC fans, don't jump on me for this. I'm taking off my hat right now. I'm just talking middle of the road. If I wasn't a fan of USC or UCLA, I'd be saying, what the hell's wrong with UCLA? Why can't they figure it out? And it goes back to what I said at the very beginning. They've got to make that financial investment. If they're not, guess what?
And it's more than just rev share. It's more than just NIL, although that's a part of it, right? It's seeing in the Athletic article, Dante Moore didn't get all his money. You see D'Anton Lynn going from UCLA to USC to double his salary, but it's from the top bottom. And that's where Julio Frank, the new chancellor, and that's the difference between UCLA being the public UC and USC is not. That's an advantage, especially in the college football sector. You know, you can separate those things, and UCLA's got to pay millions of dollars to Cal just from going to the Big Ten. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing of all. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
like, that's
sue me. I'll see me in court. You're not getting any of my money. And I get the whole UC system, and
but it's like, why? Like, Cal's in the ACC. I mean, I know they got a lesser deal, but like, UCLA was being proactive, and they still are being punished for it. Like, they're getting punished every way. And they need an AD who can be like, this is not happening. They need a UC leader. They need a chancellor to be like, this is not happening. They need a coach to be like, look at all these opportunities. You're going to put us back in the hole and give Cal money, where it's like they care about academics. And now here they are stealing UCLA's money when UCLA has been operating in various parts of debt with the athletic department, in certain ways. And that's been the mind-boggling problem. But what could be fixed is if you get the right guy. And we're going to talk more about Coach Lynn, strengths and weaknesses. Clearly, defensively, you mentioned X's and O's, but is the personality a fit? Let's talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. Let's tell you about why you should get a Mazda, because Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. It delivers confidence with every ride. Maybe you're driving around Southern California right now or wherever, weather might be a factor, and you're like, wait, what's going on? Well, Mazda has more IIHS top safety picks and awards than anyone else as of this last August. And here, you can also make everyday drives feel anything but smooth handling to intuitive control. Sometimes you're like, it's a little herky-jerky. No, smooth. Easy, cool, and with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, then you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And let me tell you, those seasons are coming up on us. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Most people, I'm most people, can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. I don't even know what I'm worth, I'll be honest. And whether it's 401ks, properties, investments, when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's what Mother tells me all the time. Mother, sorry, this is where I can help with Monarch Money. And that's why there is a Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop and on your phone, so you don't have your mother telling you don't know what you're doing financially. Monarch Money helps me, and I'm like, wait, Mom, look, I know what I'm doing now. Because it's built for people with busy lives. And if you put up organizing your finances, certainly like me, I'm a young guy, I don't know what I'm doing. And then boom, Monarch Money's right there for you. Does the heavy lifting for you, for me. And you can link all your accounts in minutes to see clear data visuals, smart categorizations, and finally, get your mother telling you don't know anything about finances off your back. So you can identify, hey, maybe you're not saving as much as you thought, but Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover those forgotten 401ks from past jobs. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, we're talking strengths and weaknesses. Now, before we talk Coach Lynn, I know I was just messing with you, Mark, about we're talking Coach Lynn. Do you ever wear the color blue? Like, do you actually outside of, I'm pretty sure you're a Dodger fan, right? You're a big Dodger fan. Yeah, so we're huge Dodgers. So other than the Dodgers, do you wear blue or any type of blue that represents UCLA? Do you stick away from it? Because I don't wear red. I unintentionally and intentionally. You don't catch me wearing largely red stuff, and obviously you wouldn't wear blue stuff. Do you wear anything blue besides the Dodgers?
There are shades of blue. Will you ever see me in the baby blue? Probably
Sissy
never.
Blue? No.
Never, ever.
And you generally won't ever see me in a red. The only red thing I probably own is a Chattanooga Lookouts hat, and I think that's pretty cool. And it's an American flag one for the 4th of July with the eyes. I think it's really cool. Here, I'm going to pull it up. I have it right, Nick. This is the only type of red I have if you're watching on YouTube. I think it's acceptable, but I can't just wear it on this podcast because you have to go blue and gold only. So you won't see me wearing it, but that's the only red thing I have. Otherwise, no.
I love you, Zach. I appreciate your passion. I really do. I don't care who anybody roots for, as long as you support your team, win or lose. You got my respect. Bottom line.
Yeah. And right now, UCLA is a little bit of a dumpster fire, and to pull it out, let's talk about the one guy who wore both colors, D'Anton Lynn. Let's get back to it. He's worn UCLA colors and USC colors. I feel like that's a strength and a weakness in its own right. But let's talk about the X's and O's. Let's talk about recruiting. What's he brought to USC in a short time that maybe he did or hasn't from UCLA's 1 year to USC's now 2 years?
Yeah. So the first thing that was very noticeable is USC went from looking really, really, really bad on defense to looking respectable last year. In fact, there were times where they looked better than respectable. The way they handled, beginning of the year, they went up against LSU, looked pretty solid. The end of the year, Texas A&M against the bowl game, they looked really solid again. There was a learning curve last year. And, I remember D'Anton Lynn said when he came over, said, I got more talent here than I was working with at UCLA. Or I kind of gave him that side-eye look that the old rifleman would give. And I was like, are you sure about that? But the way he does things, he's a player's type of coach. He's not a yeller. He's not a screamer. He simplifies things.
And wait, I'll tell you one thing, Mark. You know who's a player's coach? Deshaun Foster, and they just fired him. So is that the right move? That's a whole different thing.
That's the difference. D'Anton Lynn is not the head coach right now.
Yeah.
So as a position coach, a coordinator, you have that latitude, so to speak. Do
you think you could be a player's coach as a head coach today? Or do you think that's more because it's different? Society's changed a lot. Are you more player's coach, head coach, or are you less so in college?
If your head coach is going to be considered the player's coach, the good cop, you have to have the ass kicker. You have to have a bad cop on your staff. Absolutely. There has to be a balance. One of the players told me recently that, again, Lynn doesn't yell or scream. He likes to talk, make sure the players understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. But it does come a point where he will get into you if you're doing the same mistake over and over again, because that's a reflection on him and his assistant coaches. So I think from an X's and O's standpoint, schematically, he's up there. I mean, he's the son of a coach. He's been doing this since he learned how to walk. He makes great adjustments as well. He can take one player from one position, put him in another, and you instantly see how successful he can be. He did that with Jalen Smith last year. Jalen was all over the place at nickelback, safety. They said, you know what? You're a cornerback. And now look what he's doing with the Houston Texans. I mean, literally in 1 year, he turned that player into an NFL player. where before everyone was wondering what's going to happen with Jalen. So D'Anton Lynn is somebody who, whether or not he's ready to be the head coach at UCLA or anywhere, he understands football. He understands how to communicate with the players. You're not making a bad decision if he's on your list of candidates, is I guess what I should be saying.
And that's the big thing. I would say the only weakness is loyalty. Cough, I'm just kidding. But, I mean, here's the thing. Part of the reason, a small reason, UCLA's defense is kind of sucking for talent. He took a couple of guys. He brought like Kamari Ramsey from UCLA to USC. Now, is that the reason why UCLA's defense sucks in 2025? No. But you think, all right, he poached a couple of strong defensive pieces. They realized how good of a coach he was, that they were willing to trade in the blue and gold and go to USC and go across town just to follow a defensive coordinator. You don't always see that type of thing following a coach, maybe a position coach or a coordinator necessarily like that. Obviously, it's different if you're a quarterback, but as a cornerback, as a DB, as a safety, that's a unique thing to go to your rival school across town, do something like that. So that spoke volumes about a guy who came in, made UCLA's defense a top defense in the Pac-12 in 2023, where for years under Chip Kelly, UCLA was Chip Kelly offense first. And then all of a sudden, that year, it was UCLA's defense that really led the charge and made them a solid club in 2023 before he left and eventually Chip left, which was kind of the beginning of the end.
Yeah, and that was for me, that was the biggest benefit of USC being able to poach Lynn from UCLA. Is like it was always been if Coach Riley ever found a defense that can play complementary football with his offense, he's going to be a tough out against any team, anywhere, any place, anytime. So that was one of the big reasons why USC was willing to open up, what's your amount? We'll write the check. What do you need, Coach Lynn? Come over here, make USC respectable again on the defensive side of the ball. And because of what he was able to show last year, it affected recruiting. And you start seeing some of the players are, all right, USC serious about football again. It's not just about offense anymore. So, again, Lynn, I like him as USC's defensive coordinator. I hope he stays for a couple more years. But eventually he's going to be leaving for bigger and better things, whether it's a head coach at the college level or being a defensive coordinator and then onto a head coach in the NFL. I don't know what his path is, but he wants to be a head coach. He was asked that.
He wants to be a head coach. He wants to be that guy. And it's not to interrupt you, Mark, but USC has a huge 2026 class. How much of that is defensive heavy too? How much of that has been reflected about D'Anton Lynn comes in, and how much has he helped in that recruiting for that big class? I know Lincoln Riley is going to command any big offensive recruit that he really wants, and if they put up a pretty penny, they can get. But defensively, how much has he helped just in that class alone? His first true class, he can totally recruit after being at USC for more than a year.
It's weird because you want to give him his flowers because it's a great defensive class that's coming in, but you don't hear the players like, I'm going there because of Lynn. I'm going there because of Lynn. They're going there because of the vibe, whether it's Coach Lynn, it's Coach Riley, it's a combination. The players are coming because they like the vision that's being, displayed for them. And Coach Lynn is part of that. Again, he's just not a very outgoing, gregarious type of person. He's not that big personality, but it's enough personality that players from modern day like Tom Tapui want to come play for him. You get a Jakeem Stewart from Louisiana who wants to come play for him. And then you look at the other players. It's a defensive back. USC is really cleaning up there, and that's where Lynn is. He's a safeties coach, so he relates to the defensive mindset. So I guess in that regard, he does have an effect on USC's recruiting class. But it's not like
he's not over the top going out there and being the gregarious guy. And the funny thing is, it doesn't seem like Lincoln's that guy either. But if you ever want to recruit based on vibes, Los Angeles is the place.
Yeah, without a doubt. Again, if you are winning in the city of LA, and it doesn't take a lot, sometimes it's just the littlest thing will make the biggest difference. But once you start winning, USC's starting to see the crowd starting to come back to the Coliseum. I know it'll happen with UCLA too. It's the way LA works.
And the thing I was thinking about coming into the season, I know we kind of joked with preseason records a long time ago, but if UCLA actually had a good start, like they had New Mexico, they had the likes of UNLV, you bring in Northwestern. If UCLA was 3-1, potentially bowling, like improved from a year ago, and Deshaun actually kept his job, they could have been that trendy pick to flip a couple of teams. Maybe Nico stays. Obviously, he might leave to the NFL, but if he stays or something like that, and then all of a sudden you get all those portal guys coming to UCLA, like this is a trendy option. That was the hope. And you keep all those recruits for a pretty solid 2026 class. It's not top 2, but Rising they could have been that trendy pick with just a smidge more wins than last year.
Recruits look at it this way. It's like, I'm the answer. Bring me in and I'll fix your program. They don't really look at wins and losses the same way the fans do, where it's live or die. The recruits are looking, where's my opportunity? How can I go show that coaching staff and the fans, hey, you've been waiting for me. I'm going to make it happen. So, again, once UCLA makes that commitment and the recruits start to notice it, they're going to want to stay home. There's no reason they need to go across the country to play anywhere else. There is no reason that the best of the best aren't staying home to play for USC and UCLA. Bottom line. And like I said, it just takes a little bit. You find that right coach, it'll happen. It happened for USC. They finally said, all right, we're going to make the financial investment necessary. We're giving Lincoln Riley, $11 million a year. His assistant coaches are making really good money. Last year, this offseason, they made the investment into a general manager with Chad Bowden. And again, it's all those little things stacking up. Behind the scenes, the players start to notice it. The recruits start to notice this. The guys in the transfer portal say, all right, I got 1 more year, 2 more years left in college. That's my best chance. So I keep coming back to it, Zach. This is UCLA's biggest decision in a long, long time.
And if they make it right, it can get fixed. I think it's been posed as, is it not fixable? And despite sometimes all the institutional crisis, the internal issues, with just the right guy, you can almost overlook that. If you bring it the right energy and get the right things rolling, it's huge. But as you mentioned, recruiting, some guys want to be the answer. Well, you can't have a guy take on everything. And as much as we've wanted to crap and everybody wants to talk about the Nico situation, more the outside of it, more than him himself, because I've heard very good things about Nico himself. He can't carry the whole team because he can't block. He can't do it all. Obviously, he's got his own mechanical issues, throwing the ball and everything, but he can't carry the entire team. And it doesn't matter who you bring in, a Nico 2.0, a better quarterback, a lesser quarterback, a Joey Aguilar, if they kept him, Joey Aguilar wouldn't have the numbers that UCLA he does at Tennessee because he doesn't have an O-line. At UCLA, he doesn't have a running game like that. The play action works so much better for his type of ball. It doesn't matter. And you need to have a wholesale change, which makes the question important, Mark. And you've kind of teased on this, and we'll bring it again next. Is D'Anton Lynn the guy? You take off the UCLA cap. You take off the USC cap. Could he be the guy in this situation? And we both kind of seemingly agree that it may or may not be one way or the other. We'll discuss and see where he could potentially go. There's a lot of jobs open, and we'll throw some more names out there as well next on Locked On UCLA. The NFL season, it's here. It's now. It's live. And FanDuel's making sure you're ready with a kickoff that they can't miss offer. So you're sitting there like, what am I doing on a Sunday? Maybe even a Saturday as well. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Think about that. You're a new customer. You're like, I'm really trying to dive into this new stuff that everybody's been trying. And with FanDuel, go check it out. A $5 bet. Go on a guarantee. And then all the next thing you know, if you win that $5 bet, $300 in bonus bets. That really makes it a lot of fun. That makes it a lot of fun. Use that all across the app. Same game parlays, player props, or even jumping in as the live action unfolds. So you're like, wait a minute. Maybe a team like UCLA is playing better than expected. Or maybe you saw the disaster waiting to happen. That's where you go hop with FanDuel. Quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays, maybe your Saturdays, everything all around with FanDuel. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. As we've gotten to in every part of this segment when it comes to the coaching search, UCLA is this likely. I think of all the names tied to UCLA, this certainly makes a lot of sense. You bring in Coach Lynn from a different job to UCLA. It makes a lot of sense. He has UCLA ties. But one problem I have with this, Mark, is you go to UCLA for a year, and then you go to USC, and then come back. Under no circumstance do I think UCLA should accept a guy like that. Not that it means this is character or anything, but I think as much as coaches bounce around, I think it's tough to go from one school to one and then back and then truly say you care about UCLA. Am I right? Am I wrong?
So let me first say this, because in the past, this would never have happened. You never crossed that line.
Mhm.
Kyle Ford did it. He went from USC to UCLA, came back to USC as a receiver.
Had a lot of nice things to say about UCLA and Chip,
He's a-
for sure. A lot of nice things.
He did the mea culpa. He said, "Hey, my bad. Made a bad decision." But no, look, like I said, this stuff never happened in the past. I understand exactly where you're coming from with this. So that's just where we are today, though. So we have to just accept it.
But do you think it is acceptable? Like, could he do that? And really, how could you rally a UCLA community and be like, it's one thing if there's like 20 years in between.
The last laugh. He goes from defensive coordinator at UCLA to defensive coordinator at USC, stepping stone at USC to head coach at UCLA, where you can say, hey, guess what?
But in my mind, UCLA is clearly a rebuild. And I think if you want a guy to stick around, D'Anton's not going to be that guy. And I'm not sure he's ready to lead a rebuild, which could happen quicker than we think. I think it's hard to see that right now, but it could happen. But you need an established guy like a Kurt Signetti. He's like, I've won everywhere. Well, D'Anton has been successful, but it's been a very small sample size. And I think you got to earn it and grow as a coach beyond just coordinating. You have to grow in all areas.
Absolutely. What I think maybe you consider D'Anton Lynn as a head coach for is who can he bring in and surround himself with on his staff. The first person that comes to mind is his dad. Because now all of a sudden you say, all right, Dad, you're in charge of this side of the ball. You have head coaching experience in the NFL. That gets players' attention because ultimately that's where they want to go, to the NFL. So if they feel like they're being coached like an NFLer by an NFL coach, that's a big advantage. So D'Anton Lynn has enough. His Rolodex, I think, is big enough, large enough where he can say, hey, I got my first job. Remember how you helped me out? Now I'm asking you to help me out again. Come help me become the best I can be. So we'll see. Again, X's and O's, he's a great guy. I just don't know if he's ready to be the head coach.
And does he have enough connections to go, get a true offense coordinator? Would that be his father? Would it be the guy to lead the offense? Because the problem was you have Deshaun as the CEO of UCLA, basically an interim CEO, but that's kind of what they just did. Although the X's and O's of Coach Lynn are certainly substantiated over these last 3 seasons, he can clearly coach the defensive side. It's different though when you're the head coach, and it's different when it's like you can't just focus on that. You have to go look and wait a minute, we need a quarterback because you can be good defensively, but go get your quarterback. Go know your connections offensively. Does he have that yet, or is it just all NFL references?
I think it's both. I mean, just look at the direction of the coordinators, how young they are in the NFL right now. So there's no reason why he can't say, hey, you know what? Come do this at college. Because ultimately, I think most coordinators want to be a head coach. So if you can show you can do it at multiple places, at the NFL level, at the college level, how you can communicate, relate to the younger players. A lot of times guys are willing to step down and come back to college to kind of, find their groove, so to speak, before they take the next step into becoming a head coach somewhere. So if you're going to pick D'Anton Lynn to be your next head coach, which I don't, again, I want to see USC, but I just don't think he's the right guy right now.
Yeah, he seems like a guy that you want. He's not a terrible. He would be a terrible hire, I think, right now. He is the right guy at some point at some school. Maybe he could go get flirted with by some other negotiation somewhere else at some open job. It just seems like for what UCLA needs, personality, what they need to change the institution, what he knows, having worked there for a year and seeing what it was like to work under Chip and what other institutional problems they might have, a lot or a little. It just doesn't seem like this is the right fit. And then the UCLA-USC thing, that bugs me a lot. I know players have crossed that line a little bit more. Coaches have started to do something else. There are maybe other better names that, for better or worse, would attract a lot of fans to UCLA. D'Anton Lynn, his names that are out there, I really don't think so. And I'd be a little disappointed if UCLA went that route. It seems like a simple route if they fell for D'Anton Lynn again.
I'm telling you, the splashy hire, and he's got a national championship ring. If you could figure out a way to get Coach Ed Orgeron, that would grab everybody's attention. He can recruit. He knows how to communicate with the players. He's got that big personality. It's just a matter is he a UCLA type of guy? And you know what I'm talking about. Will he appeal to the wine and cheese crowd? to the people who write the checks, because it's different in LA than trying to do that in Florida or Louisiana, where all they care about is football. Out here, there's some nuance involved behind the scenes, unfortunately, but that's the way it is. So,
are there any other names you would think would work well? I know Coach O is a big personality. What are the other ones that are up and coming?
Mike Gundy just became available, the former head coach of Oklahoma State. He's not shy about expressing his feelings. He's a man. He's older than 40. We know that.
He's fired.
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen him go on that "I'm a man, I'm 40."
Yeah, I was rewatching that one. Yes.
Yeah,
but then the joke's like, is he going to say I'm 58, I'm fired? Like,
so that's someone I would take a look at. I think I was telling you this off camera. I know the wound is still open, festering, but I would take a look at a guy at New Mexico, Coach Eck.
Jason Eck. Yes, he is a great guy. He's up and coming. Idaho had success with him, and that's not necessarily an easy program to have success. From FBS to FCS, took that program, made it competitive, has made New Mexico with a new quarterback and a different system, with the quarterback who I don't think is all too good at New Mexico, and they still boat raced UCLA. And they were competitive at Michigan. Like, that's not a team that should be competitive at Michigan, and they were.
Like I said, he caught my attention. Here's another name, and he's a head coach right now at Sacramento State. He's young, but the guy recruits like no other. He has connections everywhere in Southern California. If you can get Brendan Marion from Sacramento State, again, you're rolling the dice a little bit because he's a first timer. But if you need players, if you need to rebuild that roster, you could do worse. He'd be the type of guy that you'd probably want. You want a splashy hire, and you want that guy to go call him and be like, I know you're a head coach. Come on our staff and recruit right now, and you'll get a job in 2 years. Come get the waiting. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, come here, be here for 2 years, recruit, and we'll tell you so much to the new jobs that are going to look at you after being here at UCLA that you deserve a new head coaching job better than Sac State. I know Sac State has these plans to go FBS or all these things. Like, no. Come to UCLA, come recruit, and if you want to recruit, go get those guys, bring them to UCLA, and that's how these super staffs are built. You build out the program, and then with the cachet and all the good love, you go hire the coordinators that you want, and that's how you build it from the beginning, and that's how you sustain it over the few years.
Yep, absolutely. I don't know how locked in he is at Syracuse, but Fran Brown?
I've seen that name. Yes, Fran Brown. If he could come to UCLA and be a West Coast guy, if you're recruiting at Syracuse, you can recruit at UCLA. Like, even, what was it, Brian Smith of the portal was like, dude, this dude can recruit. Everybody, he can clearly recruit. I mean, Syracuse hasn't played as well recently in terms of, like, compared to last year, this year, but, like, they're good. They're really good. Even though their quarterback's out for the year, they are good.
Would UCLA be willing to, and again, he has a job, but he's kind of under the gun right now. His team's 1-3. Would you guys make a run at Dabo Swinney?
100%. I would go for Dabo. I think everybody would be like, let's go for Dabo.
Money, though, but I mean, you're talking about a guy who was born and bred with Alabama. He still talks like he's at Alabama, even though he's at Clemson. But all he's done is, he's taken Clemson from Clemsuck and made them respectable. I mean, a couple national championships
and legit. And that would be arguably the biggest name. That's more than Chip Kelly's ever done. To be quite honest, that would be a huge coach with a lot of success. And if you want, like, the good guys coming to UCLA to stick around and get degrees, then you would bring a guy like Swinney in and be like, hey, like, this is the right guy to come in and bring all the guys who can stick around for 3 to 4 years to get degrees.
Here's another one for you. If he doesn't get it done this year, I'm wondering how long Penn State's going to deal with James Franklin. There's another one for you to consider.
That's an idea. I think that would be a little too expensive, and I'm not sure.
Well, I think all these things I'm talking about are going to be a little bit too expensive, but that's why I go back to what I've said since the beginning of the show. UCLA has to decide: are we all in? Are we halfway in? Or are we just like, it is what it is, and maybe we'll get lucky?
And it's not like they have no tradition. There is a tradition. It exists. It's different from other institutions, but it exists. And UCLA-USC is a hated rivalry. It is. I'm not supposed to be talking to Mark. We should be talking crap to each other. But here we are. We're like, we kind of like each other. We're cool right now. No, it wasn't that long ago. Where it was like, I was sick to my stomach to show up to school, whether it be middle school, high school, elementary school. If UCLA lost to USC, and if kids wearing USC jerseys, they were embarrassed to lose to UCLA. I was embarrassed to lose to USC, whether it was expected or not. I was just like, I was sick to my stomach for a year. And I'm not sure that's how it feels.
Zach, USC is not supposed to lose to UCLA 2 years in a row, let alone 8 years in a row. All right. That's just not, it's not part of life. That's not what God intended. So I feel you. I understand exactly what you're saying. When I was younger, when USC lost to UCLA in football or basketball, especially in basketball, I didn't want to talk to anybody. Okay. I didn't listen to sports radio. I didn't watch any of the sports shows. It's like, just leave me alone. Let me flush this out of my system. So I feel you. I want to feel that again. I don't hate UCLA right now.
I remember going I was relatively young.
UCLA right now.
I remember walking to the Galen Center, and this was a lame UCLA-USC basketball game. To the Galen Center, I had a UCLA blanket tied around as a cape, like a beanie, a jersey. I walked in. The entire student section booed. I was like, who are they booing? And my brother's like, because he's a USC fan, looked at me and was like, you idiot. Like, I was like, oh, the entire student section booed me because I had a blanket as a cape. And this was like terrible UCLA-USC basketball. This was when Vucevic was a part of the USC team. That wasn't good UCLA-USC basketball, right? That was like, and it was still hated. I obviously basketball still kind of feels that energy, but football needs to get it again. And obviously it shows up in fans, but it's not like I am sick for a year. It's like I'm sick for 3 days. No, let's get back to that 365 days of despise for each other.
I had an adjustment period when Henry Bibby was USC's basketball coach. I had an adjustment period. It took me a while to warm up. And by the time his tenure was over, I was like, leave, get out. It doesn't take a lot to get those emotions stirred up again. And I'd love to feel that again between USC UCLA.
And we do feel it to an extent.
Right.
But when it was like peak, the last good game was 2022. That was not that long ago when there were so many stakes to the UCLA-USC game. So many stakes in 2022. There was a lot of stakes just a few years ago. And then it's like 23. It was nice to embarrass Caleb on his birthday. Last year, last year was a forgotten year. Like, do you, if you really remember, yes, obviously USC won the game, but like, do you remember that game's not going to be remembered last year?
No.
The 23 game is kind of remembered because of Caleb on his birthday, but the 22 game, huge. The 21 game, remembered. We're not that far away and far removed from huge moments in this series, defining college football, or at least being indelible images that were important in fun college football games in those seasons.
I remember all the big wins USC over UCLA, but you know what I remember more that always sticks out? I remember games like 13-9.
Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite images. That's one of my favorite moments.
Of course it is. But that's the type of stuff. It's where USC is, going for a championship and UCLA says, hey, hold my beer. It's that type. It's the same thing when UCLA has a good team and USC says, you know what? You're not good enough. It's that type of stuff. I like it when it's the gutty little Bruins against the big USC Trojans. We need that to come back. We need USC to beat UCLA every year, but for both programs to be successful, because players want to play in that type of environment, in those types of rivalries. It shouldn't be, the national attention shouldn't always be about Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be about that. LA should always have a place in the national conversation.
Yeah.
And the sooner UCLA puts on their big boy pants, the sooner this rivalry can take back its place in the national conversation.
And we're not that far removed from it having been the case. And just like it was serious in various moments from 06 to 22, there were still some big moments, even like the early 2000s and obviously the 90s, but just kind of recently it just cratered. And we need the right guy. And I think UCLA is they're not that far off if they get the right guy, but it takes a whole effort to embrace it. And you need to embrace it. USC had to embrace it. UCLA needs to do the same thing.
In a perfect world, who's your next head coach, Zach? You get to pick. I'll give you my list of candidates. Who would you pick?
Who I think it will be Tony White. I'm not saying that's what source is. I'm thinking that's like where they might go. Who I'd want just to stir it up would be fun. If they had money and they just wanted to stir it up, you could go get like a Lane Kiffin because LA is much better than Oxford.
Okay, there you go.
That would be a fun guy to go make it exciting and be like, all right, like, let's go. And then he would make that UCLA-SC game exciting immediately.
Would Steve Sarkisian come back to the West Coast?
Not from Texas. Not from Texas, I think. I mean, it depends. If Arch Manning is so bad that it drives him out of town from Austin, maybe. But I think that speaks more about Manning's play than it does about Steve's coaching.
Again, both of those guys had the program at USC. They weren't ready for that program yet. Mm-hmm. Sark had his own personal demons he was dealing with. Lane Kiffin was just too young. But he found that, Nick Saban mentorship. Nick taught him, this is how you're a head coach. If he could do it at Ole Miss, yeah, he could do it at UCLA. Again, it comes down to, because Lane Kiffin knows if you want to be successful, you got to be able to pay for the players. And that's what he's got down there. I know I sound like a broken record, Zach. Until Casey Wasserman calls up his friends and says, hey, join me, help us. We're the guys to fix this program. That's what it's all about right now. That's why you joined the big conference with USC. We wanted those bigger paychecks. We were tired.
That was the proactive move. Now you have to make the coaching hire to do it. They were proactive and said, the game's changing. We want the paycheck. And I think, obviously, I don't like where college sports is going with the conference realignment, but UCLA, USC were like, well, we're going to go cash in. And they made the right move, I think, both schools in terms of from financial purposes only. For destruction of the Pac-12, no. For easy sports management and traveling, no. But in terms of cashing in and realizing, let's get our big check right now, right move. But now you have to make the right move in the coaching hire to prove that this move is worth it. Because if you don't care about football, then why would you move to the Big Ten in the first place? Because you're going to get stuck on the Big Ten network. And at some point, they're going to be like Florida State. We want more money because UCLA isn't worth that. And UCLA is 100% as worth it as everybody else. But you have to make the right hire.
I couldn't have said it any better. Absolutely.
You made the big move. We made the big move. Now you have to back it up.
Absolutely. UCLA has the resources. They've just got to get those guys to buy in. And I don't know why it's not happening at UCLA right now. I'm okay with it. Eventually, you guys have got to get it figured out, or you're just going to turn into another Fresno State, another Cal. If you're looking at it from the academic side of things, you got to separate yourself from that group.
And UCLA is kind of in the middle ground. You go down or you go up. You sink or you swim in terms of college football right now. There is no, we have an era of dominance, 4 years. No, players don't stick around. You got to earn it every single year. USC went through a down period. UCLA's had up and down periods. Get over the Chip Kelly nonsense, flush away the Deshaun Foster hire, and say, hey, Julio Frank, I'm appealing to you as the chancellor. If you have a chance to make the hire and make it happen, do it. I don't believe it's D'Anton Lynn. You can go with Tony White, but you have to convince the fans he's the right guy. Maybe it's Jonathan Smith. Maybe it's Coach Eck. Maybe it's someone else. Any of these guys. But go full board. And that will completely change it for UCLA to make this a fun Los Angeles crosstown rivalry again. Because it still is, but it needs some more stakes. And USC is closing in on that. UCLA has to go for it. And then boom, we're talking completely different crossover at the end of the year. Not this year, but hopefully by the end of 26 or 27, it can be different.
This is the type of year, though, where UCLA is going to go 0-11 until that last game of the year, and they're going to find their manhood.
Their edge. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see UCLA going 1-11 and that one win happening in that crosstown showdown.
That would be, honestly, if there was a way to be 1-11, I would love it.
You won't see me on my episode if that happens, because I'll be...
Oh, man. That would be talked about for centuries. If USC is continuing to be one loss, undefeated at that point, in contention for the CFP, and a winless UCLA and Nico comes in, the conversation changes. Nico probably earns himself $1 million if that happens. Like, whatever the NIL deal, wherever he's going to probably transfer to, he earns himself $1 million or $2 million. The $4 million he wants, he would earn it if he beats a CFP USC team with this UCLA team. He would earn it. That
would be right up there with 13-9. That's how much it would hurt, because USC was already packing their bags for the national championship. Mm-hmm. And then tip pass, interception, game over. And it was like,
wow, absolutely changed the history of college football forever. Certainly. That is Marc Kulkin of Locked On USC. We have come to an agreement. Coach Lynn, not the right guy, not the right time. Great coach. Both schools, both programs absolutely know this. But UCLA they need a gregarious guy. They need a loud guy. They need a confident guy, Steve Wiltfong of Rivals says. And they need somebody to handle the nonsense that UCLA might put in front of them and win in spite of it. And as we agree, UCLA-USC is much better when it's for all the marbles, for the stakes, whether it's be for Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-8, for the Big Ten, for a CFP, whatever it is, for the Los Angeles love and support. That's when it matters the most. So that's Marc Kulkin of Locked On USC. We thank him for coming on. I'm Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, Locked On UCLA. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.